Let's talk to God. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk to God. Woo!
Hey everybody, it's Cutler here in the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast, the Let's Talk to Cutler YouTube channel. And just in case you're stopping by for the first time, or in case you've been by several times, this is just a reminder that every Tuesday and Thursday we have this conversation for about 1800 seconds, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. But we have these conversations every Tuesday and Thursday about seeing what can we do to make sure that we are inspiring ourselves, inspiring ourselves and each other, motivating ourselves and each other, and challenging ourselves and each other to see what we can do to show up a little bit better tomorrow than we did today, and to see if I've shown up better today than I did yesterday. We're also pushing ourselves to the limit, tapping into our character, tapping into our humanity, and just seeing what we can do to make sure that we always show up our best selves, even in the worst of situations. This week, that really plays out in a different way, making sure that we show up our best selves, even in the worst of situations. I'm just thinking about so many things that are going on in the world, and I'm mentally challenging myself now to stay integral, to stay optimistic, and to stay hopeful. And I'm challenging myself that no matter what happens in life, no matter what pitfalls I face, no matter what potholes I encounter, no matter what negative situations confront me, that I do my best. I do my level best to show up as my best self, even in the worst of situations. I'll get into that in just a moment, but just in case you're stopping by, we have those deep kind of conversations from time to time, and we walk away, I hope, with a nugget that makes us go, now that's really something to think about. I want to walk away a little better than I walked into the conversation. I'll shout out the LTTC VIPs in just a moment, but do me a favor, as you're coming on into the chat, say hi so I see who you are. But meanwhile, we're going to move on with the conversation. But do me a favor, invite somebody else to the conversation this evening, because I want to really talk about part 2 of how to find peace with everything that's going on, you all. I really want to talk about how to find peace. I know we started that conversation before, but when I consider things like here, yet we have another choking situation in New York, and we have the mass shootings in Atlanta, and we have convictions of people from the January 6th revolt and riot, and so many things are just taking place. These are opportunities for us to call forth our character. They're opportunities for us to call forth our integrity. And they're opportunities for us to stand up and say, no matter what's happening, I've got to convince myself to be my best self at all times. My heart goes out to the victims of the shooting in Atlanta. Some of you may or may not know this, but I spent a significant number of years in Atlanta. I did law school there, went to law school there, and lived there for a few years. And when you live in an area, generally, it's my experience that when you live in an area, you develop some kind of affinity for that area. You develop some kind of connection with that area and with its people. And so with that said, there's a part of me where my heart goes out to the victims and their families in Atlanta. Life just Life is life. How about that? Life is life and life happens. How are you all processing some of the things that are taking place? Talk to me. I'll talk about finding peace in just a moment, but how are you all processing life? Let's talk about it. I do want to shout out the LTTC VIPs, those who jumped into the chat before I did. I do see you, Annie Color, who says, "Get aboard, let's ride." And uh, yeah. Tracy, I'll chat about that. Let's see. So the LTTC VIPs this evening are Annie Cutler, Paula D, and Tracy Johnson. It's good to see all of you all. I want to go directly to there's a question in the chat. Cutler, do you have any tips on how to cope with the first Mother's Day with mother deceased? Unfortunately, I do um, have a few tips on that, Tracy. In fact, and I'll share those a little later in the conversation. But you all put some things that you might want to ask me, you might want me to talk about in our conversation this evening. But yes, Tracy, I'll definitely come around to that question. As some of you know, a few years ago, I eulogized my dad, and facing the first Father's Day and the first Thanksgiving and the first Christmas and the first of everything, those are hurdles that are sometimes challenging to navigate. So I do have, from a personal perspective, I do have a few tips on how to do that. I want to pull up our conversation from a couple days ago and just continue that for just a moment. And I can sort of wrap that one up a little early and then come back to Tracy's question. But you all, we were talking about how do we find peace in the process, in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of the challenge, in the midst of the hurt, in the midst of the pain, in the midst of the confusion, in the midst of life happening, life circumstances? And there were several tips that I talked about. Some of the things I said, make sure you take a break and learn how to meditate and find the positive of what's going on, and look for the silver lining. So those were a lot of the things that I offered as tips. And then I said, to the extent that you can, just slow down if you can. Take one thing at a time and allow yourself to focus on the things that really matter. And then I suggested to some of us, look for another way. Maybe just from time to time, if you can, just find another way of being, another way of doing, another way of showing up, another way of accomplishing. So find another way. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, is it necessary for me to do this thing right now? That's one of the ways that you can find peace in the midst of chaos, because chaos and all that will cloud your mind. Another thing I said was, don't let anybody drag you down. Don't let anybody drag you down or drag you into their drama. Make sure that you just toss out the drama and handle it, and you somehow manage to keep on going. But I wanted to extend that conversation just a bit this evening, because I know we then went into and we talked about allowing yourself to trust something that's greater, come outside of yourself and trust something and someone that's greater than you. And I told you all, many of you know my faith platform, and you know what that means for me. And then I want to say this: make sure that you focus on, what is life teaching me? What are the lessons that I am to learn? What's going on here? Because your journey isn't always going to be easy. Your journey, your journey is not going to be easy all the time, but it's going to be worth it. Your journey is not going to be easy, but your victory is going to be worth it. Your success is going to be worth it. Your conquest is going to be worth it. Your overcoming moment is going to be worth it. So even though life throws its curveballs and its problems and its hurdles and all of that stuff, your destiny, your victory is going to be worth all of that. There is no perfectly smooth road to any destination. Not at all. And so one of the things I want us to do is know that life is just life. And as we are navigating this thing that's called life, you all, and in light of the things that I mentioned that are happening, the mass shootings and the unfair murders by authorities and these sorts of things. When we think about all of this stuff, sometimes you just have to find somebody that you can trust. You have to find somebody in your village, somebody in your community, somebody who's connected to you that you can trust. somebody who's a part of your tribe, somebody who's a part of your space and your circle. And remember that you're not alone. So sometimes you all, we just have to let people in when we find ourselves in these dark places. We have to let people in, and we have to give them permission to stand beside us. And Tracy, this part really speaks to me, my friend, in terms of when we talk about how to navigate that first Mother's Day without mother, or that first Father's Day without father. These are dark moments that happen. And sometimes we just have to allow people, just one or two, not a whole lot of them, but sometimes it's that one or two people, we have to allow them into that dark space. And we tend to know who those people are that we can allow into that dark space. And they may not necessarily solve all the problems. They may not necessarily remove the hurt. They may not necessarily remove the pain. But one of the things that we can do is give them permission to stand with us. We can give them permission to stand beside us. We can give them permission to reach their hand out to us when they feel like we need an extra squeeze or we need a little more strength. We can give them the permission to do that. They won't necessarily be able to pull us out of those dark places all the time. But it's something about inviting somebody into your dark space when they carry just a little more light than you do at the moment. Because their light has a way of spilling over. Their light has a way of showing us the way. They have a way of showing us to the door. They have a way of shining and saying, see, there is a door. You won't always be in the space forever, but there is a door. They may not be able to pull us out of the dark space, but it's something about the light that they bring into the dark space that pierces the darkness that we are experiencing. And the light that they bring may highlight our tears, may highlight our frowns, might highlight our sadness, might highlight our emotions. I'm specifically addressing now those of us who've ever had to navigate death of loved ones, and now we come to dealing with a first significant date after they're no longer here with us. Those are dark moments. This conversation, it seems so timely in terms of that question, because how do we find peace in the midst of the processes? You know for yourself that sometimes, anybody ever been in a dark situation, and you're in a dark situation and you're just reaching for the straws, you're reaching for the light, you're reaching for the light switch, and all you see is darkness. That's all you experience in the moment is darkness. But if you invite somebody else into your space when you're dealing with a dark moment, at least their light will spill over and illuminate the way just for a moment. And you may not even move from that place, but what happens in that place is that their light will shine and you will see that there's a door, there's a way out, there's a bridge over. Yeah, you'll stand there in the same place and you'll cry, you'll feel the pain, you'll feel all of that. But it's something about somebody else's light that will give you hope. One of the things that we need to remember is that people are in our lives for a reason. And I'm talking about positive people. I'm talking about upright people. I'm talking about people who bring worth and value to us. They're in our lives for a reason. So no matter how low you ever feel, no matter how lonely you ever feel, no matter how lonesome you ever feel, no matter how dismayed you ever feel, no matter how pathetic you sometimes feel, no matter how no matter how forsaken you might feel, understand that there is someone in your life who is there for the purpose of helping you to deal with that. And many times there's someone in your life who might have dealt with a similar situation, maybe not necessarily the same, but a similar situation. So whenever you want to say to yourself, I'm alone, tell that particular insecurity, no, you're a lie. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Somebody else is here with me. Tracy, my friend, I hope that helped to some degree. One of the things I had to remember was that in my darkest moments, I wasn't alone. And sometimes it looked like that, sometimes it felt like that, but I had to remind myself, nope, I'm not alone. I'm good. There are people in my life for a particular reason. So as much as it may be difficult for you, my friend, as much as it may be dark for you, allow somebody in your life to stand beside you in that moment. And let me just say this to all of us, you all, in terms of finding peace in the midst of the process, no matter what the process is, and making sure that we open up to people who we can trust. Sometimes you say, "Color, how do I know that I can trust people?" Certainly, you have to be the judge of that yourself, but I'll share this with you, and we may have talked about this before. How do I know I can trust people? Look for people who are consistent. Look for people who are consistent. You know for yourself. Lord have mercy. I'm talking about how to find peace in the process, but I know I'm getting ready to diverge just a moment. I'm getting ready to digress for just a moment because in finding peace in the process, one of the things that we're talking about is making sure that we open up to someone that we can trust. But I need to just digress for just a moment because the question may be, how do I know that I can trust people? I've trusted people, Cutler. Sometimes they weren't the right people. I've trusted people and they changed. I trusted people and they flipped the script. They changed the narrative. But let me just say this: when you're talking about trusting people, look for people who are consistent. I hear you, McDonough. I love that. Consistency is key. Yeah, yeah, really, look for people who are consistent, and then look for people who don't mind being showing compassion and humility. When I decide that I'm going to let people in and that I'm going to trust them, I look for people who are consistent. If you're inconsistent, that speaks to my mind mediocre thinking, and that's not me judging anybody, but that's me just talking about my reality. The inconsistency. I think there's a quote that says, "Inconsistency is the hobgoblin of little minds." You want people that's consistent because that way, if I'm consistent, then you generally know how I'm going to respond to you when you bring your crisis to me. When you share your challenges, your problems, your pitfalls, your potholes, when you share them with me, you know who I am and you know how I'm going to respond because I'm consistent. Look for people who are consistent. That's who you can trust. And again, look for people who show compassion and humility. People who try to identify, people who respond out of their emotions to what you're going through, and they do it with humility and not with a superiority complex. Look for people who show compassion. Look for people who show community, who show humility, and then look for people, for goodness sakes, who respect boundaries. Those are people that you can trust. People who respect boundaries. When you set them up and say, "Here's a line that I don't ever need you to cross, and here's a line that I won't ever cross with you. And here's some lines, here's some boundaries that I may need you to cross them, but I need you to cross them only when I ask you to." You have to learn to get. You want people who will respect boundaries and not just assume that they can just bogart their way right into your life and just keep right on going. And no, no, no. You don't need people like that. Not that you want to put your trust in. And then I look for people who will compromise and they don't expect something for nothing. They don't mind their compromise. And they don't look for returns. They don't look for rewards, particularly when they haven't done anything. So I trust people who don't mind compromising, or at least who will consider another way of being, another way of showing up. Those are people that I trust. And then I trust people who are not always hyper. I trust people who are not always on edge, but people who are calm. People who are not always so explosive emotionally. People who cannot maintain their emotions and will explode at the drop of a dime. What I will say is this: that doesn't work for me. It just doesn't. It doesn't work for me. I trust people who are relaxed and who are calm and who can be level-headed and who maintain their wits about them. Those are the people that I trust. I trust people who are respectful, not only of my boundaries, but of my time. People who don't put me on the back burner when I need them now. People who will show up with me at a particular time when I need them and not just late. I trust people who are respectful when it comes to time. And then there's something about people who don't mind showing gratitude, people who are thankful, people who are appreciative of kindness. Those are folk that I trust. You all just took me down that road. I almost spent my whole 1,800 seconds with you going there. But in the midst of the process, Cutler, how do I find peace? One of the ways that we find peace is finding people that we can trust, you all. It is so important. And then for the last few moments, I talked about characteristics of people that we can potentially trust. All right. But I know. I hope that helped. I hope that was helpful for somebody. Because think about the people in your life. Think about the people that you trust. Sometimes we've fallen out of relationship with people because we lost trust in them. And perhaps we lost trust because of one of those factors that I just mentioned. They were inconsiderate. They stopped respecting boundaries. They were always hyper. And they didn't have a calming effect in your life, but they were always just hyper. Pushed you to the edge, and you were always jumpy and edgy around them. No, I don't need that. Not out of people that I'm trying to trust. Absolutely not. But Cutler, back to the conversation, to the main part of the conversation. How do I find peace in the process? Can I tell you all to stay hopeful? At the end of every one of our conversations, I tend to say, keep your heads up and keep your hopes up. Hope is about expectations. And I think one of the ways that you can find peace in the process is to allow your hope to drive you. Allow your hope to guide you, your expectations that things will get better, that things will be better. That is your expectation. Allow that to drive you, because when you have expectations, when you have hope, it will drive you to doing things that are positive. You won't do things that are willy-nilly and wacky and crazy and dumb and silly and all. You won't do that, because when you have hope, when you have an expectation that things are going to get better, it drives you into positive action. I feel like I'm talking to myself. Cutler, when things just don't look good, when it doesn't look like they're going to work out for your good, you just have to stay hopeful, because when you stay hopeful, hope is what causes you to stay on the straight and narrow. Hope is what causes you to treat everybody right, even when people are treating you wrong. Hope is what causes you to go high when they go low, according to what Michelle Obama said. Hope is the very thing that guides your actions and your behavior. I'm behaving and responding in a certain way because I have an expectation that things are going to turn out in my favor. The very thing that we can do in life is to figure out what we're hoping for. I think it was it Diana Ross and Lady Sings the Blues? She's saying, "Do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you? Where are you going to?" That's not the line. Do you get what you're hoping for? Do you get what you're hoping for? One of the things that we can at least know, keep hope alive. That's right. One of the things that we should at least know, you all, one of the things we should at least figure out is, what am I hoping for? What am I expecting? And once you figure out, oh my goodness, my time is almost coming to an end. But one of the things, when you figure out what you're hoping for, getting ready to go somewhere with this. When the least you can do is figure out what you're hoping for, and then the most you can do is live inside of that hope. Figure out what you're hoping for, and then live inside of that hope. I just talked myself up into something, you all. I really did. Because a lot of times we're just blindly living life. And I'm talking about finding peace in the midst of the process. We're just blindly living life. We're letting life happen with all the curveballs, all of the problems and the challenges and the potholes and the hurdles and all that kind of stuff. We're just letting it happen. But while it is happening, figure out what you're hoping for. Figure out what your expectation is. Figure out what you want your end result to be. And when you figure out what you're hoping for, what you want your end result to be, live inside of that hope. That's what Jesse Jackson meant when he said, keep hope alive. Live inside of your expectations. What you want may seem afar off, but live in the hope of it happening. Right now, I live in the hope of what I want 5 years from now. I really do. And that's what guides me. That and that alone may not save me from despair, but it will empower me to keep going. It will empower me to strive. It will empower me to persevere. It will empower me to push. It will empower me to keep my head up. It will empower me to grow. Even when the circumstances of my life want to pull me down, hope is what empowers me to keep going. Build the roads of your life with hope. Lay the foundations of your space with hope. Figure out what you're hoping for. It can be your next book. It may be a book or a poem or something, but I'm telling you all, we need to figure out what we're hoping for and live in it. Can I tell y'all how much a light just went off inside of my head, and so it resonates in my soul right now. Figure out what you're hoping for and live inside of that. And when we live inside of that, we'll be less inclined to get off track or knocked off the mark when people come with their wayward comments and their wayward responses and their wayward reactions. When we figure out what we're hoping for and we live inside of that, then we are less responsive and we're less manipulated by the things that people try to do to us. I don't have time for your sidebar conversations because I'm living inside of my hope. I don't have time for your negativity because I'm living inside of my hope. I don't have time for your pessimistic perspectives because I'm living inside of hope. I am not affected by your daggers and the knives and the things that you're throwing and your attempts to stab me in the back because I'm living inside of hope. Can I tell y'all, just live inside of hope. That is one of the ways that you find peace in the process. I'm telling you all, I think I just told you the last time we chatted that I ended up having a second reconstructive surgery on my ankle. I am so not affected by not being able to stand on my foot for another 6 weeks. That doesn't even matter. Why? Because I'm living inside of hope. I'm living inside of the expectation that all will be well. And one day I'll be back on the tennis court. I'll be running. I'll be doing what I love doing. This is not, I'm not even sad by it. I'm not even in a somber mood, but I live inside of hope because I was saying to my sister-in-law, a lot of times, and I got to go after I say this, but I was saying to my sister-in-law, a lot of times we look at the future. Y'all, please hang on and just go with me for this one for just one moment. I was telling my sister-in-law, sometimes we look at the future, but the person we see in the future is my present self. And that doesn't work. That doesn't gel. That doesn't go together. When you look at your future, make sure you look at your future and see the future you. Because if I saw my future, but I see the present me, that means I see 2 months down the road, but I see the same me that's in that has on a boot and a cast, and that doesn't work. Do not see the present you in your future. See the future you in your future. And that is living inside of hope because that guides how I behave. I behave now like the person that I want to see 2 months down the road. So when the doctor says, keep your foot up, don't put any weight on your foot, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm living inside that hope because I know that one day I'll be able to put my foot down, I'll walk, I'll run, I'll hop, I'll play tennis, I'll swim, I'll do all that stuff again. And so I'm fine. It's a small scenario, but I hope you can identify with it. When you're looking at yourself in the future, don't look at yourself as you see yourself now. but say there's a better me, there's a stronger me, there's a wiser me, there's a me who has a little more wisdom, a me who has a little more know-how. McDonald said, I see myself at 135. And so when I see myself at 135, it's not the same person that I see at 25, 35, 45, 55. No, not the same person. The me that I see next week is better than the me that I see today. Good God, I got to get out of here. I got to go. The me that I see next week, that's how I live, you all. So when I tell you all I'm really striving and I'm striving, I'm trying and striving to show up my best self, even in the worst of situations, that's what I do. I see myself as a better me a week from now than I am today. People may not see the manifestations of it, but inside of me, in my heart, in my core, in my soul, there's something that when I stand up 2 weeks from now, not maybe not, I don't mean literally stand, but when I show up, when I be 2 weeks from now, I want to have the benefit of the years, the days that I have lived. Let me get out of here. You all do me a favor. Let for real. Let's keep. I may pick this conversation back up again. Living inside of hope. Know what you're hoping for. Learn how to live inside of it. I'm telling you all this. Oh, I see myself at 135 pounds. Okay, I thought you said you want to live 135 years. See, I was right there with you. 135 years. Let's go. Let's do it. But I'm telling you, I may pick this back up again, you all, because knowing what you're hoping for and learning to live in it, that's powerful. Juanita says that inner man, that change on the inside is very, Juanita, it is so very important, because what good does it do us? Y'all don't keep pushing me to stay, but what good does it do us to live and not gain the wisdom of our days? What good does it do us to live X number of years, X number of days, X number of weeks, hours, minutes, and not gain the wisdom of the time that we've been given? I'll talk about that later. Thank you all so much for engaging me. And thank you for your comments. I'm going to go back and read them. Let's do what we do, y'all. Let's keep building community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. Let's keep our heads up and keep our hopes up. Know that from my heart to yours, there is and always will be so much love. Tell somebody, come on and let's talk the color. I'll see you all the next time we are here. All right. Take care. Good night, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend.